I'm gonna beat you into the living death.
Welcome back to Yelling About Mixed Martial Arts, the show where I yell about mixed martial arts. UFC 307 took place in a state called Utah, which for some reason has billed itself as the state of sport. It would seem that if that were the case, perhaps they'd have an athletic commission that actually knew how to accurately officiate and judge the sport of mixed martial arts, which they paid the UFC a large sum of money to bring to Salt Lake City. Unfortunately, they fucking did not. From poor decision to split decision to bizarre reffing decisions inside of the cage, this card was a cavalcade of situations which were beyond the skill set of the Pete Suazo Utah Athletic Commission. Referee Dave Selchstad made quite the spectacle of himself after allowing Cesar Almeida to poke Ihor Potierea's eyes numerous times and punch Ihor in the dick, neither of which received point deductions, and then break up every clinching encounter where Ihor might have had an advantage. Potierea may have still lost the fight anyway, but there's very little chance of winning when you're fighting both a skilled MMA practitioner and a referee who'd be better suited as the VP of operations for a chiropractic clinic. Luckily for Selchstad, that's actually what he does when he's not fucking up fights, so at least he'll have a job to go back to when he's inevitably exiled from the octagon forever. As far as the fights from 307 go, there were a few somewhat interesting ones, capped off by a main event which was as uplifting as one of the emotional intelligence seminars that Khalil Rountree attends with cultish fervor. Court McGee and Ryan Spann both got submission wins, Joaquin Buckley knocked out Wonderboy and everybody cried, and Roman Dolidze got a TKO win over Kevin Holland with a little help from Holland's ribcage. Mario Bautista played the wall install game with Jose Aldo, making a whole lot of people online a whole lot of mad, where's Dave Selchstad when you need him, and Raquel Pennington may have gotten robbed in her very close fight with Juliana Pena for the women's bantamweight strap, but the only person who really cared about that is probably her wife Tisha Pennington, who may have robbed former champion Carla Esparza in their fight, but probably didn't though. Regardless, apparently there are a fuck ton of Carla Esparza fans in Utah, as the crowd felt strongly enough about the decision to boo Tisha as she gave a heartfelt speech about two relatives which she'd lost to breast cancer. When the classiest thing in your state is a gaggle of swinging Mormon TikTokers, I guess that's to be expected. In the title fight main event of UFC 307, Alex Pereira and Khalil Rountree would put on a striking affair for the ages, one which, I think it's safe to say, was the biggest challenge that either man has faced at light heavyweight. The fight was at a level of competition that I certainly wasn't expecting, but was exceptionally grateful for, especially after sitting through the 2-star undercard that came before it. Through 2 rounds, Khalil was all hands and forward motion, showing tremendous heart that certainly rose his stock in the eyes of the fan base. Alex weathered the heavy adversity which would see him dropped in the second, only to patiently wait out Khalil's stamina and attacks, lock in, and dominate Rountree in the following round. Khalil fought until he could fight no longer, ultimately ending up with a pair of lacerations about his eye, a rupture on the bridge of his nose, and his brain leaking from his nostril during his Octagon interview with Joe Rogan. Khalil proved himself to be a warrior on the night, as Alex continues to prove that he is a generational athlete who will not be denied entry onto even the most stubborn of fans' GOAT list. In an era where Bilal Muhammad, Alexandre Pantoja, and Merab Dvalishvili are champions, you'd think even the haterist of hater would be grateful for Pereira. In the weeks leading up to the Pereira-Rountree fight, I found it surprising how many people were riding with Khalil. I thought to myself, wow, where is this cult of personality surrounding Rountree coming from? Well, perhaps it was emanating from the actual cult Khalil is a member of, alongside Dom Cruz and Jeremy Stevens, called Choice Center.
So is Choice Center a cult or just a very expensive personal development course?
The cult is called the Choice Center.
Right off the bat, the first review that you'll see on Choice Center's Yelp page is a 1-star rating that immediately accuses Choice Center of being a cult in the very first sentence of their post.
I'm just kidding. Choice Center is not a cult. Says so right there on their website. However, the Anton LaVey tattoo that Khalil has on his abdomen might lead one to believe that he'd be a pretty cool person to party with. If you know, you know. But whether or not Khalil is a cult member or a Satanist, none of it holds a candle to Alex Pereira's indigenous rainforest voodoo magic, so I guess that matter can be considered settled. Moving on! The week before 307, UFC took the show to Paris in the country of France, a nation especially known for their amazing achievements in the world of combat. The crowd in Paris witnessed the ass-whipping of Benoit Saint-Denis a lot more clearly than he did after having both of his eyes swelled shut by Renato Moicano. Moicano packed an entire fight's worth of punishment into about 4 minutes of the first round, delivering said ass-whipping with a separated fucking shoulder. After the impressive win, Renato launched into one of his trademark Octagon interviews, denouncing France's leadership and system of government. Ironic how Money Moicano went out and secured the bag, considering that when he opens his mouth, my first thought is to tell him to just put the fries in it. Also from the Paris card, Fares Zayam sent Matt Frivola to the great beyond with a crazy high knee. Brian Battle and Morgan Charrier had nice finishes, and Eileen Perez choked out Daria Zalesniakova before shaking her ass in Daria's face. Zalesniakova should count herself lucky for this, considering that there are gooners on the internet paying big money for the exact same thing. Lastly this week, and speaking of tremendous asses, it was recently reported that Antonio Tricoli, the current husband of Mackenzie Dern, has been arrested for the assault of Wesley Santos, who is the ex-husband of Mackenzie Dern. If you're not familiar with Tricoli, you may remember him as the loser of a recent fight with Shara Bullet, or the moron who can't stop getting popped for PED use, or the dork who tried to catfish Bobby Green into a street fight for being impressed with Mackenzie Dern's ass on a UFC commentary show. Well, Antonio, I've got unfortunate news for you. Everyone on the planet is impressed with Mackenzie Dern's ass. I am Legion, we are many, and you cannot fight the entire planet, much as your roid rage might tell your brain otherwise. Get off the juice, be happy you get a slice of that cake at all, and keep your fucking hands to yourself. Both outside of the octagon and in, if we're being honest. For yelling about mixed martial arts, this is Thinker St. James reminding you that if you care this much about Mackenzie Dern or Eileen Perez's ass, you too are a fucking moron! Subscribe to the channel or I'll spit in your face like Dyer Nurgashai's corner man on the Contender series!
Everything's
So
good.
close, man.
Everything's
So close.
fine. Just
Hey,